Evening all, how are we? And welcome to Warriors of Attraction. Once again, my name's Adam, and I'm going to doing this solo again because Andrea's got family commitments as usual, which is all right. It is all right. Family life always comes first, I say. So today we have got Parveen Smith. And we are going to be talking. Now, I'm just going to keep it short because I'm not got a clue how to say the full word. We're going to be talking about Fibro. Now, obviously, we're going to be talking about her journey living with it, but we're also going to be talking about how she's recovered from it. So, please share this in awareness and let's get more stories out there. So, I will see you in about 30 seconds. Hello, Parveen.
Hello, Adam. How are you?
Keeping busy as usual. How about you?
Yes, I'm very good, thank you. Yes, busy, some family commitments, as you've just mentioned, we all have them,
Yeah,
and we just keep going and we balance things, we juggle things around. So all is good, yes.
absolutely. And thank you for coming on because I know a lot of people live with fibro, but it's how do they deal with that and stuff like that. So I think that we should dive into that. But first, I'd like for the viewers to actually get to know who Parveen is behind all the court she is and all the professionalism she is. Like, who is Parveen?
Thank you, Adam. Okay, so I'm Parveen from Cheshire, the UK, and my journey started off with helping people from a very young age, I would say. I was really interested in helping people from, I would say, youngest, probably 5, 6, 7 years old. And when I used to walk around and, with my mum, when we used to go shopping or wherever we used to go, and I saw homeless people on the streets, I had so much empathy for people. I just thought, he shouldn't be on the street. Why is this happening? And that was back many years ago. And my thoughts were, look, if we can just help them out where we can, it would be great. Mum, have you got a pound? I mean, of course, in those days, pounds was a lot of money. So it would be like 50p, 2p, 10p, whatever it was, to give to this poor man. And that's how I started off. My empathy was like that from a very young age. And then, as of course, we go through life with different difficulties. I was brought up in a single parent family. So my mum had 6 girls, or 5 girls first. One of my sisters, unfortunately, died at the age of 20. And my anxieties were from a younger age than that, I would say teenage years, to be honest with you. Because when you are growing up, and you're struggling through life and you're just thinking, how are we going to make things work? My mum's a single parent. She's got to look after my younger sisters, and the older ones were looking after the younger ones, and so forth and so forth. And also during those times, I've got to be absolutely honest with you, Adam, there was a lot of inequality with racial sort of thing going on, racial inequalities. So we had a lot of struggles sort of fitting into society back then. It's not like that so much now, but back then it was like that. So the anxiety is really quite heightened for us as a family growing up. My granddad, was part of, lots of work he did around the world. I say around the world because as far as I can remember him telling me, he worked on the Navy ships and he was a chef during the World War II. Yeah, so he was to-ing and fro and he was going from one country to another. And I think he had a lot to do with building the railways in different countries as well. So my grandma told me. So there was a lot of this going on with the anxieties bringing, showing its awareness at a young age, coming into my teenage years. Then I had a great life transformation at the age of 17 years old. And this is something that people don't really talk about. And I won't talk about it too much right now, but arranged marriage, if that's something rings a bell for people that may be listening. And then I had my heightened anxiety was even through the roof at this stage, because then I had to go through with so many things that I disagreed with, things that
Right.
didn't rest within my soul. This is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And then my sister died. When she died, the whole of the family's world, it was just such a tragedy. It should never have happened, but it did. And it was a court case and so forth, which dragged on for some time. We never got our answers, if I'm being honest with you. I don't think we got justice in that situation. And then I had my 3 children, of course. My husband's been absolutely fantastic. You couldn't have asked for a better husband in my eyes. His name is Darren Smith, of course, English. So we had a mixed relationship. You know, we had got myself from the Asian background, the Indian background. Then you've got Darren, born and bred here in the UK, from the English background, merging together. We've got 3 beautiful children, and I have 3 grandchildren as well. So I've got a 5.
Wow.
I've got a 5-year-old, I've got a 4-year-old, and a 1-year-old baby girl. So they are fantastic. So when I say family commitments, they do come in here and there. And of course, I work full time as well. So I'm self-employed, which I have been for over 20 years. But just to give you a little bit of awareness, though, as well, Adam, before I was doing this sort of work, I was mentoring in schools over 20 years ago. And I worked in schools, in primary schools. I used to help children to put the smile on their faces. If I could get one smile on a child's face, my job was done, because there were so many disharmonies in their family background. What were they going through in their situations? And that's why myself was brought in to help that school. Well, I worked between 2 schools as well, but help the schools to get their children feeling happy again. And when people were having problems at home, the children were having family problems at home, my job was to help to lift them. And hence, I do that now, but on a wider level with adults as well as children. And I get to see all age groups, in fact. So that's a little bit about me. I help people in the best way possible to help people to get through the anxieties and stresses of life. But also, I am a therapist, so I help to heal people's body systems. And AOT, which is called Angels of Transformation, is a beautiful, impactful therapy which helps to get the body back on track to some levels.
Brilliant. And thanks for sharing that. And obviously, I have to share. When you mentioned you worked in schools, I actually messaged a school speaker. The page is called, and because I'm actually deeply concerned about the well-being of children in schools today, whether it's primary or secondary, because it's like the creativity is just being drummed out of these kids today, and it's like, why? And they don't talk about mental health anymore.
Yeah.
Not like obviously when I was in school, I didn't even know mental health actually existed.
Same.
I didn't. But it's now it's been spoken about in a bit, but not enough.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
That's true. And, you know, so when you go back to what was I doing 20 years ago, it was helping people with mental health problems, dysfunctional families. We can sort of say that. We can say people who were struggling to learning difficulties. So my job was really quite huge. And I had the full capacity of, like, you know, speaking to the teachers, planning in ahead what I would like to do with groups of children, take them out of the classroom. In fact, that was my job, to take them out of the classroom and help them in small groups to develop them to be happier, help them where they were feeling unhappy in life, where they were not coping in life. You know, for example, one child, her mother did commit suicide. So my job was, it was such a shock to the whole school, to the family. It was just that, how can this even happen? You know, what that child was going through was horrendous. And my job was to try and pick her up again and to help her to sort of speak about it if she could. But obviously it was too traumatic. She couldn't at the time. And, you know, to do my very best to help her get through emotionally. So my job was really to help people on an emotional level, mental level. Physically, we also did activities as in groups, and we did do art. So I did a lot of art with the children. We did a bit of drama, so a little bit of everything, you know, a little bit of cooking, because I love food, I love cooking, and I was showing them how to make curries in schools, believe it or not.
Wow, that's brilliant. Brilliant. And obviously I've started a cooking channel anyway, so that's all right. But I know we got a little bit sidetracked there, but I want to talk about fibro. Like, for people that don't know what it is, or know a little bit about it. What is it, and how does it impact you?
Yeah. So when I had fibromyalgia, I would say about 18 years ago, um, I had a near-death experience. I've had two near-death experiences now, and that was
Right.
one of them. And out of that trauma that I went through, because I couldn't breathe, and an ambulance came, flashing blue lights, took me to hospital, and I felt my body shutting down. I could actually physically sense myself dying in front of my daughter as she had to run and get help for me. She was 8 years old at the time. So it's a long story, but I'll just keep it short. So
Yeah.
I feel what had happened was my body system had gone through trauma throughout of my whole life. And when those breathing difficulties came in 18 years ago, and then my body went into like, it just wanted to shut down. It had enough, of everything that I had to go through. And during that time, I was thinking, please, I can't die just yet. Don't let me die. And that shock and trauma of different things, episodes that have happened throughout my life, then the breathing difficulties, all too much. So as my body was shutting down, it was the most scariest thing in my life. I've got to say the second most scariest thing in my life. And it's just like, wow, what is happening? From there, the hospitals, my lung specialist, my physios didn't know what to do with me. They just said, you know what, you're going to be disabled now for another maybe 20 or 40 years. You've got this for life. So I refuse to believe that chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia, they sort of can go hand in hand. But fibromyalgia it's an extremely painful situation on the skin. So when I was being touched, even by doctors or specialists, or even my daughter would come and say, Mum, that little bit of touch went through my whole of my body as excruciating pain. So fibromyalgia is huge in what is it all. But if I could just explain to you, some of your listeners already might know what fibromyalgia is, but it actually is a debilitating condition. It makes you feel so lethargic, fatigue, mental fog, no energy, like I say, but the pain that goes with that is extreme. The littlest touch for me was like alarm bells. My body was going to saying, stop touching me. It's like people were trying to hurt me or harm me. And they weren't harming me, but my body was so out of sync with so many things. And my body reacted with that pain sensory, like it was far too much for me to cope with.
Right.
If that sort of makes sense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. See, go on.
Why don't we Google, what fibromyalgia is? Because everybody will struggle, or people who struggle with this or have had it will have so many variation of symptoms. So if I was to say symptoms of fibromyalgia do vary, which is what I've just explained a little bit here, but the main symptom is pain all over the body, and this is what my body went through. But like I've already said, if we just search what is it, it gives you the symptoms, and the symptoms are increased sensitivity to pain, and it goes throughout the whole of the body: extreme tiredness, fatigue, muscle stiffness, sleeping difficulties, problems with mental processing, and that definitely was there. Concentration, you cannot concentrate, and you can get extreme headaches, and it can also upset your digestive system as well. So just a sort of thought, if people have had fibromyalgia or have got fibromyalgia, they will be going through some of these things that I've just mentioned here. But it is literally known as pain all over the body, and there is no cure for it apparently. But treatment is painkillers, therapies, exercise programs to ease and help the symptoms. But I totally believe that it's an impact of what's happened in your life that brings on fibromyalgia at any point in your life. And it could be something that's triggered it, like a shock. For example, my shock was my breathing difficulties. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah, it does. And it actually makes me think that obviously I'm not going to self-diagnose, but obviously I was in college many, many, many years ago, and obviously I was doing football studies, and I caught a sports injury in my back, and ever since my back has been absolutely killing me. But the only way for me to not feel that pain is CBD oil.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like it got that bad that obviously I dropped something and I bent down to pick it up, and my back just locked, and I couldn't stand back up again. I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't. So
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know. I don't know because even then, too much like stimulation with the body could actually trigger this as well, couldn't it?
Yes, I mean, I think once you're a doctor, because we must remember, it's great to go to the doctor to get diagnosed because you do need that diagnosis. Because
Right.
then they send you to the hospital, then they go to send you to different people to be checked out for this, that, and the other.
Okay.
Could it be a link to lupus, for example? They thought that I had that at one point, and it wasn't. The chronic fatigue for definite, because it says fatigue if you look it up, but that I had chronic fatigue that it actually paralyzed me. So
Right.
because of the breathing difficulties, knock-on effects of other conditions like fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome are, I think, triggers of a shock situation. So there could well be. I've felt this for years, and I was in a fibromyalgia group, and that was like 16, 17 years ago. And when I was in that fibromyalgia group, people of all ages were there, all ages. I had somebody who was in the ex-army, people of
Okay.
all ages, 60, 70, 80-year-olds, and people with walking sticks, because it can be debilitating for sure.
Yes.
But and at that time I did have a walking stick. In fact, I did have a walking stick, so I went back to using that. But I could not move from this sofa here. I would not be able to walk to the door. I could not walk down
Mm,
the drive. I could not walk down the road, and it can be that bad, the fibromyalgia, the fatigue side of it. For me
yeah.
personally, I struggled to even lift my fingers. It was like it sort of paralyzed me
Right.
intermittently throughout my 2-year period.
Okay. Okay. See, because I know someone that lives with fibromyalgia. Yeah, I said it. And
You said it. It's not that
and
difficult.
and obviously, like obviously, I've just been doing like research in types of methods, and I've been told many times that it could be tablets, like could be addiction to tablets, which, to be honest, I think that only numbs the pain, doesn't cure it.
Mhm.
But massages, like the massages were one of the benefits to it. But people who live with it said that being touched, as obviously you say, it could feel like sandpaper on them.
Yes, I've heard people say that when we were in the groups. For me, it wasn't. It was like, for me, it was like alarming,
Hmm,
shocking pain. The
right.
sensitivity, it's almost like sensory wise, if you did that, it was like, don't touch me, the
Right.
littlest thing. And I also knew somebody, a relative of a relative, who also had fibromyalgia. Sadly, he's passed away this year. But again,
Okay.
he had fibromyalgia for years. And he used to say to me the same. He says, Parveen, I can't bear anybody. And I can remember I was giving him a therapy treatment because I'd recovered by this stage. And I was giving him a therapy treatment. He says, oh, please don't touch me. Can you do hands-off therapy? I said, of course I can. He says, my pain is just so excruciating. It's unreal. And that's what it is. So for people who are having massages and they feel good, gosh, they're so lucky if they can get someone to touch them, because there's no way anybody could touch me. If my kids came and accidentally sat next to me and touched me, I was like, too much pain. So if people who are
Yeah.
having massages with, fibromyalgia, that's good, because it just goes to show the alarmness of the sensitivity of pain that people can have. Some people
Yeah.
some people can actually, their pain threshold might be slightly different, or the fibro might not be as intense, for example, just as
Okay.
examples. But like I say, there's no way that anybody could actually give me a massage that would know. I think the best thing that I think the doctors at the time said, painkillers, that was probably about it. Get yourself in a fibromyalgia support group, which there was one. We had about 25 people going to it, in fact, and there's
Wow.
always regular newsletters coming out and so forth. But for myself, I found a way to actually, get well from fibromyalgia. And I can remember saying to my lung specialist at the time that I don't want to be disabled. It's not me. I'm far too active for that. I've got to recover from this. And
Yeah.
within the 2-year period, I did recover, but it did take 2 years. And one day I can remember 2 years to the exact month when I was in hospital, rushed to a hospital. 2 years to that month, I recovered to that month. And I'm out of nowhere. This is true. I didn't have no more pain in my body. I could breathe better. I could walk better. I could eat better. And I was sleeping better. It was just like a miracle.
Okay. Okay. So, if you haven't said it already, what was your response to when you found out, when your GP or whoever said, Parveen, you've got fibro?
Yeah. I just didn't know what it was.
No.
100% honest truth.
That's what doctors do, isn't it? They put this label on you, whether it's fibromyalgia, autism, depression, whatever, and it's like, well, off you go, then.
Yeah.
That's what
And
they do.
yeah, now I'm going to have to think back a little bit because, challenged me a little bit there because I'm just thinking, did my doctor give
That's
me a
my aim.
printout? Yeah. Did he give me a printout of the actual thing? He might have done. I'm just thinking someone did give me something. It might not, I don't know if it was the hospital or the doctors, but they did
Right.
in the end give me something to say, this is what it is. But then they said, of course, I'm thinking, well, get me better then, please. Show me what I've got to do. And they said, we don't know how to deal with it because there is no cure yet.
Wow.
And even to this day, a lot of people think there isn't a cure, but I know people feel better from therapies and you can feel better. So when I was in that support group at that time, and there was another lady and her name was Adele, and we became good friends from that group, and some of us others became good friends. And I said to her, look, I found something that's going to help us get better. And she says, what is it? I said, it's called healing. We can heal our bodies with this. And
We
anyway,
can.
so I started giving her some healing sessions. By that time, I'd trained in it. So, and anyway, she felt better, that slight bit better in one session. Then she came back for more and more and more. And then before you knew it, I was a practitioner of this. And this is what I practice still to this day. But I've got my own therapy, which is called AOT. And it is on a different sort of vibrational frequency. So the higher the frequency, the quicker the recovery. And when I was treating people over the last 16, 18 years, I can tell you now, those people that had fibromyalgia didn't have fibromyalgia in the end, and they found a job. Adele went to work in the NHS, for example, and there's another lady called Jane. She wanted to become a practitioner like myself, so she trained in things. Then she did other jobs as well. I think she was a carer, of course she was. She was already in the caring industry as well, but struggled with energy and fatigue and sensitivity to the skin. So it really did help people to sort of get help and get back on track, if you like. But I know some people can feel well for short periods of time, but then the bout of fibromyalgia might flare up again, which it did for me even so too. But you've got to keep up with the well-being side. When you keep up with the well-being side, you can keep on top of it and your body can cope with everyday life. But I was disabled. Yes, I was disabled for 2 years with it.
Wow.
And I
Wow.
even said to my doctor, please, can I have a disability badge to get me out of the house? Because people were taking me out, like my neighbour across the way. She'd say, Parveen, you stayed in the house for too long now. Let's see if we can get you out. And I thought, yes, please. But then, I couldn't walk from where she wanted to park. And I thought, I can't walk from there to there. And because you're talking about 18 years ago now, I looked too young. And getting a blue badge, for example, I was not really entitled to because I wasn't old. This was the conflict I had with the doctor. My doctor was very good, but he said, we can apply for it, but you might not get it because you look too young, basically. I'm not elderly. What do I need a blue badge for? It was that sort of a scenario back then. So in the end, like I said to my doctor, I said, forget it. I don't want to be on disability benefits. I don't want to have a blue badge then. Fine. And it wasn't because I was retaliating or anything like that. I was saying I want to be well, but I will find a way to be well. And anyway, so the doctor stood up, he shook my hand and he says, I wish there were more people like you in the world. I think he saw me as quite assertive and strong-minded, that I need to be well for my children. But I know everybody's different in mindset. I understand that.
Yeah.
Everybody's body's different, and I understand that, And I just lay here for 2 years during that period of time, up to about 2 years. And I just waited. I just surrendered. I thought, I will recover. I will recover. And then I was just self-treating myself every day. And I've done the same. I've been self-helping myself now for 18 years. I still do self-treatments every day. And I feel more energized, more lively, more healthy and well. Of course, if I didn't do it, what's the scary part of that could well be is I would dip into some sort of fatigue, and I don't want to go
Right.
there. I don't want to go there. So hence, I've always maintained my own health. I do practice what I preach, should I say.
Good. We all have to practice what we preach from time to time. We absolutely do. Like I did that today. Like just going off topic a little bit. Like walking down to go and get the bus and then walking towards where I need to be to sign in. My anxiety levels were rocketed there, and I've never felt that kind of anxiety in a long time. Like I could feel pain there. And I just kept saying to myself, you will do this, everything's okay. Like positive affirmations to myself. And I feel like I did well today.
Yeah, if you did that and you got to it and through it,
Yeah,
you conquered it. There you
yeah,
go.
yeah.
Because
And that's what people have to do, is just having that,
you have to push
yeah,
yourself through
action.
it. Yeah. And I think this is it. You know, when you say feel the fear and do it anyway, feel the pain and do it anyway. And that was something
Exactly.
I was taught that when my third child was born, Alicia, when I was going
Yeah,
to physio because that was a different injury and disability I had. So this is my second one I'm talking about now. The physio said to me, you have to get through this pain threshold. You have to. And I can always remember that with us having the second disability. It was like, she said that to me, and I've just got to keep pushing myself through this pain threshold. I've just got to keep trying, just don't give up.
absolutely. And that's exactly what it is. So you struggled for many years with this. It must have impacted your relationship.
Yes. So my relationship, luckily, with my husband's fantastic because he's very understanding. My kids, I think what it was, because this is when the second lot of huge, or however many anxieties about
Mm-hmm.
every time,
Yeah.
this next lot of huge anxieties came in to a certain degree, because I think at one point we were all thinking, have I got cancer? And that was the scary part, because my next door
Right.
neighbor had cancer. The lady down the road, she had cancer. And then somebody said, oh, there's going to be somebody else who's going to be ill. And then when they started saying things like that, you think, oh my God, I hope I haven't got cancer. So we went through all the tests. It wasn't that. It was just extreme chronic fatigue and the fibromyalgia after the breathing difficulties. Yeah. So, yeah. So, it was a thought of, how do I get over this? But I had to surrender. I had a tool by this time to help myself, which is what I did. I used that tool every day until I just thought, I'll get through this. I'll get well. I just got to stay not, when people say be positive, it's more than being positive. It's being hopeful, positive. Every ounce of you is like, I'm going to get better. I don't care.
It's action, isn't it?
It is. And I've got to do
Yeah.
something for me. And that's why I was putting my hands on myself, give myself the healing treatment so that my body will be flooded with this light energy, and that would go to in every cell of my being. And then I just keep waiting till every day I've done it, until I can see a remarkable difference. But like I say, 2 years later to the month, 2 years later to the month, I was well. And already, even though I wasn't well in that time frame, Adam, I just decided I needed to work, and I started work 1 hour a week. I know it sounds really silly, but that's all the energy I ever had. And I was doing treatments for 1 hour a week, which also helped myself as well. So it was a two-way thing. And that,
Distraction, wasn't it?
yeah,
Distraction.
because sitting in a room with four walls can absolutely send you bonkers. And
Oh, I know that.
yeah, because your mental health will get worse by just doing that. So this is when friends, my school teacher friends, and they used to come in, pop by to see me. My children were really helpful. They'd do the cleaning, the cooking. My husband would do it. And actually, my husband had to give up work to be my carer for a period of time. And
Okay.
they kept his job for him. They said, well, we'll keep this post for you. Look after your wife, see what you can do, and then see what happens from. And that's the best we could do. My eldest daughter, she was my carer for the second time around again. It does make an impact on the whole family for sure. But
It does.
luckily, like Adam, I say, my family have been so good to me. I'm so blessed with a good family.
Yeah, yeah. I bet that impacted your own mental health as well, didn't it? Because because maybe you thought, I'm useless here. When you had that negative mindset,
you wish you could get up and help. Yeah, you
Yeah.
wish you could get up and do the dishes. You wished you could have done the dinner. You know, that's the sort of thing. You wish you could help just to clean the house. And it was just far, far away from my reality the first year for sure, you know. And that's when everybody had to pitch in and do their bit. Yeah.
I was same a while back when obviously I sprained I sprained my ligament in my foot, and I
Painful.
just wanted to, yeah, it was very painful, and I think I was down for about 3 weeks or so, and I just thought I just want to get up and actually do something,
Mm.
but I just couldn't.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I mean, if you've had Achilles heel, ligament strain in the foot, all that sort of thing, it's so painful. It is
It
because you
is,
can't
yeah.
stand up on it. So you need to give it time to recover. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Well, also my partner was taking the piss out of me because she literally saw me crawling to the toilet because I just couldn't walk on it. I
Yeah.
couldn't not put weight on it. So she
Yeah.
was laughing at me. I'm like, come on.
Yeah. No, I get it because when that pain is there, because I've had Achilles heel problems and ligament
Yeah.
strain there as well during the pandemic. Because I tell you something, what happened, Adam, actually, you know, during the pandemic, everybody was at home wearing
Right.
slippers and just flat stuff. Nobody was really wearing any sort of footwear, proper footwear, if you like. Only when we went out of the house, and there was a lot of injuries during that time, and mine was
They
one of
were.
the injuries. And that injury was because I'd worn slippers at home all the time. My foot was flat all the time. So when we were allowed to go out for walks in nature again, and you started putting your boots on, and there was a tiny bit more, like it's a different footwear altogether. And walking up a hill, strained. You know, that was it. I was like, my goodness me, I've got strain in my foot now. You know, need to get this fixed. And then the other foot went. But then, like I say, once you start getting the help to get fixed, you can fix these things, and back to normal again after some time. Yeah.
Absolutely. So at one point, did you say to yourself, right, I'm sick of this shit. I want to get healed. I want to recover from this
Yeah, I would say really quite quickly. I think,
quickly.
yeah, really quickly. I think I would say the first couple, 2, 3 months, I would say was a blur because I was
Right.
not well. I was just sleeping a lot of the time. I was just asleep because of the breathing difficulties and because they didn't know what was going on in my body. You see, at the hospital. Um,
Mhm.
so I was sleeping a lot and I was on a lot of medication at that time as well. It was only because I thought if I come through this is a miracle. And I was just thinking, oh my God, am I dying here? Because that's what was happening to me. And, every day was the same, too scared to close my eyes, wondering if I'd wake up in the morning, when I did fall asleep, am I going to be alive when I open my eyes? So it was a scary, scary time. But when I came to the point of the fibromyalgia, because that was then came secondary and third, the chronic fatigue, it was like, this can't be my life. This cannot be my life. I need to recover like now, So there's
Yeah.
some like, what can I do? So I went everywhere. I went physio, tried to look for things that could help me. And like I say, then the only thing that really helped me was the therapy that I was doing on myself, which is what I've trained people all over the, different parts of the country and world. But it is self-help. You've got to help yourself in any health problems, because sometimes what happens is people think that the medical society might, or the NHS might help me. But they can only help you so far. We've got to help ourselves first. You
Of
see,
course.
we've got to be ready to help ourselves, put the effort and the commitment into asking for help, getting the right people to help us. And once it's there, you've got some tools to work with. And of course, NHS, they'll help you as well, but they probably can only do so much. It's like with fibromyalgia, they can only do so much. Then we have to take
Mhm.
the power in our own hands and look for the right therapy that's going to help us and work with the person who's going to help us to get better. We have to take ownership of helping ourselves. Big thing for me, that is, actually, because I've had 2 disabilities for too many years in total.
Absolutely. And I was saying that to someone earlier, well, this morning before I left, is because obviously they were saying that they're there for the kids and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, so what are you doing for you?
Yeah.
And like, I'm doing a lot. And like, are you sure? Like, no. I'm like, okay, well, start doing things for you, because end of the day, how can you look after your kids when you're not looking after you? And I say that to my kids all the time, even though I know we've got one on the way. But I'll be saying that to him as well. It's like my life, my health and stuff like that is more important than the kids, even combined.
Yes, yeah.
It's that simple. And that doesn't, to me, that doesn't sound selfish or whatever people want to call it. It's
Yeah,
not.
it's not selfish. And then that's
No.
what I've been teaching since my recovery 18 years ago, 16, 17, 18 years ago, because I was telling people about this whilst I was unwell here. Because, like I said, I started working for 1 hour a week, then I went up to 8 hours a week, and lots of people were wanting to be well when they heard my stories. And I kept saying, listen, you've got to look after you. You've got to give yourself time, effort, everything back to you first, because I can tell you now, the situation I've been in, without me, there is no happy home. Without me,
Absolutely.
there is no income, without me, the children will not have a healthy mother. So this is why we have to put ourselves first. And you're totally right. We have to tell people this. You're not being selfish by looking after you. Look after you first. Everything else will flow better.
Absolutely. And maybe that could be another conversation to get people listening to. So where can people find you?
Okay, so people can find me on Soul to Soul Wellbeing. So that's the Soul to Soul, the group that was here years ago. Soul to Soul. So Soul to Soul Wellbeing. .com, www.soultosoulwellbeing.com. And if you look on there, you'll see different things that I do. So the trio sessions of therapy are great because they really work with your physical body, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually instantaneously. And then we have the anxiety stress management program, which I've been running for some time. And they are helping people of all walks of life. And you will get nurtured through the program because it's there to help people to get them through. When people have anxiety attacks, for example, I've had anxiety and panic attacks, Adam, for years, and I didn't know what they were. I didn't know what they were until I looked back at I requested my doctor's notes, and I got a big wad of them because you have to pay to have the doctor's notes. And I said, I want all my notes, please. And when I look back, I couldn't believe what was written on them. Anxiety, stress. But you know what? My life with my family is great because we're so happy. We're such a happy family. It was the other things, the challenges and the obstacles that brought in the anxieties prior, which was an impact for the health problems that I had. So this is why, we've got to sort of look after ourselves. And those programs are there to support you. When you have a panic attack, people can message me straight away. And guess what? We can get rid of that panic attack really quite quickly with the work we do.
Absolutely. Right.
A lot shared there. A lot shared there, but we can recover is my point.
Of course. And that's if we allow it to, because I believe we can only because we can be our self-critic, but we are our greatest teacher as well.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally.
Better than school anyway, I say. So, but I can't even find my diary to see who I've got on next, but I think I've got someone called Igor on next week at original time, talking about osteoporosis.
Yeah. Important subject matter again.
Yes, osteoporosis.
Yeah.
So thanks, Parveen, and I look forward to speaking again.
Yes, fantastic. Thank you, Adam. Let's get the awareness about health out there to people.
Let's do it.
Yeah,
Let's
fantastic.
do it. All right, see you later, guys.
Thank you.